Alright, parts finally came in for the 2005 Yamaha YFZ450. If you guys don't remember last video on this thing, we picked this thing up for, I think it was $1,500. Pretty good deal. The guys knew me and they gave me a pretty good deal on it, which was nice of them. They didn't, however, tell me that there was coolant in the oil. And later we found when we tore it down that, let's see here, the cylinder was cracked. So tons of coolant was getting into the engine. You can see the big crack in the cylinder right there. This was a big bore CP piston. It was just rebuilt, I believe, a couple months ago. And I'm not sure what happened, but something happened and the cylinder cracked. So we are going to rebuild it today and see if we can get this thing started for the first time since owning it. We got a brand new kit here. I buy a lot from this guy, AZ Quad Parts. Go check him out on eBay. He's very fast shipping usually, so I usually order from him, and he's got pretty good deals. This one was a really good deal. It was like 400 bucks for a CP piston. This is the stock bore, 95 millimeter stock bore. You can see that the big bore piston was a 98. So this is 3 millimeters less. We didn't go with the big bore because we measured the cylinder last time and the cylinder wall was so thin that I wanted the stock one just because it was a little bit stronger. Look at this guy checking out the piston. Do you approve of the piston, Vinny? And then we got the cylinder and a gasket kit in here as well. Cylinder is actually really nice. I did not cheap out on the kit. Then we got the Cometic gasket kit as well. So that looks pretty good. I don't know why it says 96 millimeters on the gasket kit. That's kind of weird. But here is the cylinder. The kit came with a really nice cylinder as well. It's not one of those cheap ones you find on eBay for like 100 bucks. This one is actually like $400. Hopefully they sent the right one. Yeah, it's a Cylinder Works cylinder. So it's definitely a nice cylinder. I believe it's already honed out. Yep, you can see all the lines on the cylinder, so that looks really good. And look at the difference between the thickness of this one and the other one. Those walls are so thick. There's no way that's gonna crack. Knock on wood. But that looks really nice. And you can see it actually says Cylinder Works right there. Made in the USA. So you know it's good. So we'll measure the ring gaps and all that fun stuff and get this thing rebuilt. I'm guessing we're gonna have to adjust the valves as well and shim those, but we'll see. All right, opening up the CP piston here. Take a look at this one. Hopefully everything looks good in here. Got the nice sticker. Little packet here. Here are the rings. The rings. There's the piston in there. Looks pretty nice. That is a pretty piston. It says MX94 on it. So the black ring right here is actually the second ring. And then you've got the piston colored ring is the top ring, and then the oil rings right here. So what we're gonna do is take the cylinder and just measure the ring gaps here quick, just to see what they're at. We'll do the top ring first. Stick that in there. What you do is use the piston. Push down those rings a little bit. And you can see the ring gap right there, so it's nice and tight. See that? Little gap right there. Get our feeler gauge out. This one looks pretty tight, so we should be good. It's gonna be like 12 thousandths, I bet. Yep. Wow, that's almost perfect. So 0.305 millimeters, or 12 thousandths of an inch, is what that ring gap is at. That is pretty much perfect there. Second ring going in. So it's bigger than 12 thousandths. It might be like 15 thousandths of an inch. A little bit bigger. I think it's gonna be 16 or 17. Yep, 17. So that one's 17 thousandths of an inch. 5 thousandths bigger than the first ring. So both ring gaps are within spec. I know I've said this in previous videos, but for the piston rings, you want to put them with the, see the N right there? Right there. That is facing up on the ring. And the oil rings aren't marked. Just put those in however you want. And then when you put the piston on, you want these ring gaps to be staggered. So you want one ring gap to be in the front, like that, so the ring gap right there. Then the other one 180 out, so the other one in the back. So it's 180 out, see that? Other one in the back, one in the front. And then you want to stagger the oil ring gaps as well, so that no oil can leak by, and you won't have a smoking quad. And that's the best way to do that. So we'll install that. We're gonna lube everything up here, and we'll install that and see how that goes. All right, we sprayed off the surface of the actual engine case here where the cylinder lays and where the gasket lays with brake cleaner, and really rubbed off all the old gasket, and so everything's super clean on there. We also lubed up the rod end, so everything is good to go. We just have to get the gasket on. And the one that came in the kit is a super heavy duty one. It's actually not paper, it's tin. So it's super good. Typically I would use gasket maker with a paper one, but with this one I'm not going to. And note, we have the 2 dowel pins in already. One right here, one right here. You can see that lays nice and flat on there. All right, now typically I would change out the cam chain, but on this one it was just rebuilt. So I'm guessing they replaced the cam chain, so it was a full rebuild. So that cam chain's gonna be fine. I mean, this thing probably has like less than 5 hours on it. So get the cam chain through here. We've got our rings staggered yet. All right, piston and cylinder are on. Also note that the piston goes in the way that the valves are oriented on the head. So there's 3 valves in the intake side on the head, and there's 2 in the back near the exhaust. So that's the way the piston goes in. There's no marking on the piston to tell you which way it goes in, so just check your head and put it in that way. But yeah, everything moves smoothly in there. I rotated it up and down, so now we can get the head on here. All right, definitely fits that way. The gasket here. There we go. All right, head is on. Now we need to get the bolts in here. There's 4 of them. And then those have to be torqued down in the correct sequence. So we'll go over that sequence as well. All right, so the correct sequence we're gonna be doing is crisscross pattern. And what we're gonna first do is tighten them to 22 foot-pounds. Just starting at one corner. I'm going to tighten these to 22 foot-pounds. We already applied grease to the bolts. And this is just to crimp those gaskets down because they're brand new gaskets. And you want those to crimp down all the way so they seal properly. That's kind of why you go through this step. That one's done. That one's done. That one's done. Now what we're going to do is loosen them up. So just completely take them out. All right, now they're all loose. Now we're going to re-torque them to, I believe it's 14 foot-pounds. Yep. Just gonna re-torque them to 14 foot-pounds. All right, those are torqued to 14 foot-pounds. Now what we're going to do is mark each of the bolts with a marker. So we're going to mark them right here, right here, right there, and right there with a marker, just a line. And then what we're going to do is twist them another 180 degrees. So that line right here should be on the other side of the bolt. All right, you can see I marked each bolt with a line with black Sharpie. So now we're going to twist these bolts around until that line is parallel over on this side with that line. So it's just going to be the opposite. So 180 degrees turned. Now we're going to get the cams in. So timing, you're going to line up the flywheel. There's a couple marks down here. It's the third mark. So there's 2 marks like this, and then there's a third one all alone. It's the third mark. So we got that lined up. And the cams, you can see, are in here correctly. So you can see there's a dot right there, horizontal to the head. There's a dot right there, and there's a dot right there. I don't know if that's zooming in. Right there. There's a dot right there. So these dots below have to be lined up with the surface of the head, and we are perfect. And your lobes will be pointing away from each other. So these pointing that way, and those three are pointing that way. All right, so we've got the intake cam on and tightened down. I just measured all the valve clearances right here. They're all within spec. Spec is 0.004 inches to 0.006. These two are 0.006, this one's 0.004. So we are within spec on that one. This one, the cover doesn't even go on because that valve is way too big. I'm not sure about this one because we couldn't get the cover on. So we have to take this cam out, then we've got to take that shim out and replace it with a different shim. So let's do that. Let's see what kind of shim was in there. Here's our calculation for the shim, the new one. So we ended up taking these old ones out. These were way too big. I couldn't even put the cap on the cam to hold it down. So we went way smaller. We went to a 1.11 millimeter shim. And I put the cap back on, tightened it down, and then we were getting readings at 0.508, which is 20 thousandths of an inch. So that's way too big. We need to be at 8 thousandths, which is 0.203 millimeters. So that's what we were at. That's what we need to be at. So we subtract 0.203 from 0.508. We get 0.305 millimeters. So that's what we need to make up in the shim. That's what we need to add to the shim so that we get a bigger clearance. So the shim we put in was 1.11 millimeters, the really small one. So we needed to add the 0.305 millimeters, which is that amount right there. And the new shim size is 1.415 millimeters. So we look in the shim container right here, and we pick out a 1.4 millimeter right there. We're gonna measure that with the caliper. A lot of times these are off, so measure them here. So we're at 1.36, 1.37. So we're gonna go up one size to the 1.45. And that's pretty dang close, yep, 1.4. That's where we need to be. So we're gonna put this shim in and then try this all over again. All right, valves are perfectly within spec. These two are 0.008, so we are perfectly within spec. And now let's get the cam chain tensioner in. All right, the whole engine is back together. We've got the header pipe on. Everything is looking awesome. Turns over smoothly. Good compression there. That feels good. We're gonna take a look at the carburetor. This was big board before, so I wanna see what size jets they had in it. Some gas in there, a lot of gas actually. And we'll do a quick carb clean too, because this thing's been sitting for a while. Gotta take out this guy. Looks pretty clean in there. Got the gasket here. I'm sure they probably went through the carb after the rebuild. Looks like a new jet in there. Let's see. 172 for the jet. So they did rejet it. You can see 172. Floating the needle out. Needle looks good. Float looks good. So far everything is looking pretty good. Here's the spring for the this guy. Alright, let's see what they have for the pilot. We'll have to see what the stock jetting is. 50. And that is, that's clear. So it's 50 pilot in there. And the starter jet is right here. They maybe change that out as well. We'll have to check. Let's see here. Looks like this one is a 90. Alright, so it looks like stock jetting for this thing is 58 for the main, and then 45 for the pilot. And then I believe it's an 80 for the starter jet right here. So we went up on the starter, up on the pilot, and up on the main jet. So the HMF website, right here I'm on it, for YFZs recommend that we run for a full system, which is what we have, a 175 Keihin hex main jet and a 48 pilot. We're at a 172 for the main and a 50 pilot. So we're right in that range. So we're just gonna leave it like that. So they rejetted it correctly, but I don't think they took into account for the big bore. So, you know, I think it would need to go higher up in jetting with the big bore. But since we're the stock bore, we're going to leave it the same. All right, let's get some coolant in here. All right, coming over to the left side, we're gonna do an oil change on it. Since we replaced the filter, you need a little bit more oil in here. So, all right, we're gonna do like maybe 0.3, 0.4 quarts of oil in the actual engine here. Then the rest we'll put in the oil tank. And then we're going to put the rest in here. It takes about 1.98 quarts. So we're just going to put 2 in. Then we'll start it up and check it. We'll see what happens here. All right, here we go, moment of truth. Will it fire up? We're gonna use the electric start, if that works. And we'll put the choke on. See if she pops over here. Oh, also the battery is missing the screws for it, and I ran out, so we're using the jumper pack. I'm dying for some reason. Alright, there we go. That sounds better. So it looks like we're probably just a little bit rich on the pilot. That's why it's having a hard time idling. But I turned up the idle and twisted in the fuel screw a little bit, and that seemed to help. So you can see the coolant's getting hot already, but that's pretty common with these. At idle they get hot. You're supposed to be riding them. You're really not supposed to let them idle that much. The pipe is not turning red, so that's a good sign as well. All right, let's do a quick startup. And then there's a temp gauge in line with the with the radiator, so we're gonna check that once we get this thing up to temp. Just see what it's running at. All right, coming down here, you can see the temperature is 170 at idle. Looks like it's coming down a little bit now. But yeah, I guess that's pretty hot. Let's quick check the oil, make sure that's all good. Make sure it's not milky. It might be a little bit milky because we had leftover coolant in here from before, but it shouldn't be super milky. Let's see here. It's just gotta mix with the fresh oil. It's pretty milky, so we might have to do another oil change on it. You can see it's getting all that old, crappy, coolant-filled oil, and it's circulating it through the system. So we'll probably run it like this for a little bit, then do an oil change and make sure all that coolant's out of there. All right, got it all back together. Battery's in, everything's working. Thing is looking awesome. It's really, really clean machine. Absolutely zero leaking from it. Thing is ready to rock and roll. So we're gonna take it for a little test drive just around the yard, and then we'll take it to the land. But I just wanna see if it goes and revs out all the way. We've had some problems in the past with the mid-body carburetor gasket. So I wanna make sure there's nothing wrong with the carb. Idling for like 5 minutes, so no smoke, no overheating, pipe is good. Yeah, it's running good. Revs out all the way. All right, first test drive went pretty good. Everything checked out. I just was going slow in first gear, just kind of revving it out a little bit just to see if it would go, and it's like a rocket. It's crazy. The response is actually pretty good for being a, what is there, a 50 pilot in there? I thought that was gonna be too rich, but it's really not too bad. You can tell it's a little bit rich because you can smell some gas coming from it, but other than that, it's not bad. I'd rather have it rich than too lean. So I'm gonna keep the jetting just like that. If we hear popping or backfiring, we will mess with the jetting. I'll bring some jets along, and we'll maybe mess with the main or the pilot. I think they're gonna be pretty much in that range. So I think it's running pretty good. And it starts right back up. I mean, instantly. That pipe is really loud on there. So I'm sure the neighbors love that. But other than that, it's running awesome. No leaking from anything. The pressure coming out of the pipe is insane. It just blows your hand right off the pipe. So compression must be pretty high. But tomorrow we'll break it in and really send it, see what she can do. All right, it's the next morning. Today we're doing the first ride on this thing, but before we take it to the land, I want to do a quick oil change. So let's warm this thing up, get the oil nice and hot, and do that oil change. All right, we're at about 150 degrees for the temperature of the oil. Get this bolt off here. You can see how milky that oil is in there coming out. So hopefully we don't have like a water pump failure or something. Hopefully that's just from the residual coolant from the engine. All right, tank, same thing, really milky. So hopefully one more oil change does it, because that oil is not super cheap. All right, made it up to the land. It's super foggy today, so we gotta be careful. Full sending it. There's a bunch of rocks in the field. We don't wanna do what we did last time. So yeah, here it is. Let's get this thing unloaded. All right, here we go. Let's see how this thing rides today. We might have to rejet it. We'll see after the first ride, or probably the second ride, because we still have to break this thing in. So let's see what happens here. It starts up instantly though, like every time. So that's how you know it's running pretty good, at least. It's a mean looking machine. Alright, I think we're good. Just gonna take it easy for the first braking ride here. Pretty hard to see in the fog. tons of power. Crazy amounts of power. So we're gonna let that cool down, give it a touch for 5 minutes, and then we're gonna go hard on it. Alright, here we go. Now we can really break her in. Going hard on it now. See how she runs here. Let her warm up for a little bit. Hitting that rev limiter. It's pretty deep snow yet. Everything's fogging up on me, I can't see anything. Oh yeah. Well, if she survived that, then I think she's running pretty good. That was that final break in there. Alright, this thing's running great, no leaking whatsoever. Sounds really good, except one thing, the idle is hanging up a little bit. Sometimes it goes down, sometimes it goes up. I'm thinking the slide's getting caught in the carb. I checked the gas flow is good out of here. I can hear it hit. Watch this, we'll start it up and I'll show you guys what's going on. Alright, just get a quick start it up here. revs out of control. Revs up really high. So I'm gonna mess with the carburetor settings a little bit here, but I have a feeling like the slide is like moving up and down randomly. It almost seems like it's starving for gas. What do you guys think? Alright, I adjusted the idle down. See? Oh, their fan came on. We're at 220 degrees right now. Well, we know the fan works. But yeah, it's running kind of weird. I think the slide in the carb. So we'll have to tear that apart and just see what's going on in there. I might replace the mid-body gasket as well. But other than that idling problem, this thing is great. Oh, fan turned off. So that wraps up today's video on the 2005 Yamaha YFZ450. We got this thing with low compression and a cracked cylinder, and I rebuilt it, and now it runs great. So wasn't too bad of a fix. I think we paid maybe $440 for the kit. So altogether, I think we're in like 1,900 bucks. So it wasn't horrible. Yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Stay tuned for next video. And until next time, we are out.